Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to a look at the Sorcerer class. So we'll click New Game, get through all of this, create new character. Let's go ahead and use, load up now. Let's go ahead and use some of our custom images we've downloaded and installed. In fact, we made one the other day, so let's go find the one that we produced for ourselves. I'm going to talk to you today about the Sorcerer class. To people that are not familiar with Pathfinder specifically, the Sorcerer class has really been increased in utility and flavor. It's by far one of the most tasty classes in the game. So let's use the Space Warrior Guppy here and move on from there. So they obviously don't understand that Guppy is a femme. And what are we doing here? So ordinarily, if you're going to be a sorcerer, you want something that gets a bonus to charisma. And Guppy, being a baby, a literal baby, is more along the halfling size, even like a quarterling if you want to be technical about it. But there's some of her hair color. But more importantly, let's put you more on the scrawny side. There you go. She is like that. I'm not sure if she's left-handed or right-handed. She scribbles with her left hand, but she eats with both hands at the same time. So who's to say? But I came here to show you the Sorcerer class. So right away, you have the main Sorcerer archetype, and then you have Imperial, Sylvan, and Sage. And without getting into too much detail here, Sylvan gets an animal companion, which is very, very awesome and not to be underestimated by any means how awesome that is, especially since it's a druid-style animal companion, so it levels up with you from level 1. It's there with you from level 1, making you one of the strongest level 1 characters in the game. Level 1. And the Imperial Sorcerer is a caster that uses wisdom score. So if you wanted to cross class into monk for a level or two to get that AC buff, that is a thing. And especially with your transformation and summoning powers that you'll get from having the angelic bloodline and being a sorcerer in general, that's not a bad idea. Imagine that monk AC bonus and that just rank 1 improved on arm strike in a huge elemental transformation. It can be good, especially later on, and is a solid choice throughout the course of the game, and that's a theme you're going to see here with the Sorcerer. To get into the Sage archetype without getting too much into what Imperial is, the Sage Sorcerer uses your intelligence score. So if you wanted to have lots of skills and also be a sorcerer, this is a great choice, especially, again, if you wanted to cross-class into rogue, even the Eldritch Scoundrel, which is going to continue raising your caster level. That is a thing, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, to get back to the main sorcerer class, this is by far the most diverse mainline class because of one thing, and that is the Bloodline right here. So you can read the description here. I'll even zoom in here. There's page 1, okay, and then there's page 2. You can read that for yourself, but it's easier if I just go in and get started and show you specifically what each bloodline gives you. You see this massive list, but a lot of these are duplicates because all of the dragon bloodlines are essentially the same, except that you get different resistances and focuses on an elemental type, and you can choose good dragons or bad dragons as your forefathers, I suppose. Starting off with the Abyssal Bloodline. This is one that I didn't really look into before, but now that I take a closer look, it's extremely, extremely powerful. This, along with the Dragon Bloodlines, is probably the best for someone that just wants to have raw power. The Serpentine Bloodline and Abyssal and Draconic are really good for someone who wants to become a melee or a fighter sorcerer, and that's entirely possible without taking any levels in fighter or any martial class to be a powerful martial artist as a sorcerer now, which is just awesome. Again, one of the deals with Pathfinder is you don't need to multi-class in order to diversify your class's abilities, and that's something that Pathfinder really nails, but at the same time it also sort of discourages you from multi-classing because you get these level 20 abilities. And you look at the Demonic Might ability that the Abyssal Bloodline gets, and it's pretty amazing. Immune to electricity and poison. There's a lot of poisons to just tear through sorcerers because they generally have a low fortitude save. You don't have to worry about that at level 20. You also get resistance to acid 10, cold 10, and fire 10. That is pretty dang strong. If you combine that with the resistances you gain as, say, an Azamar or some other thing that gets resistances, and you're pretty strong at that point. And then you look at the spells that you get. These are just bonus spells for the most part. However, some of these are pseudo feats that you acquire through your bloodline, i.e. added summonings here that you get at level 15 is it reads as though it would stack with what's it called, enhanced summoning or whatever it is, that feat that you can get through the spell focus conjuration feat chain. Augmented summoning is what it's called. However, this does not stack with augmented summoning at this time. I checked it about 4 days ago, and that was like 3 patches ago. So again, this game is being constantly updated, but I think this is something that's going to stay. Added summonings is not going to stack with augmented summoning. So you basically get augmented summoning for free at level 15. It saves you a feat, so that's good to know. You also, again, you get bonus spells, and these are fairly useful. However, with the Abyssal Bloodline, you also get a bonus to strength. So you get, at 9th level, you get a +2, you get a +4 at 13, and a +6 at 17th level. So those are significant. A total of 6 points added to your strength score. That can really help you out if you ever decide to cast this spell. However, keep in mind that the enhancement bonuses are not going to stack with the bonus you get from gear, because that's enhancement bonus as well. But this one, Strength of the Abyss, is an inherent bonus, and that stacks with everything. Okay, Stone Skin. Again, these are all just spells you get as bonus spells, and you just don't have to use one of your precious spell slots to learn that for your spontaneous casting. And then you get a few, there you go, you get some demon resistances early on. You can grow claws at level 1, but that's one of those things that I wouldn't really get too excited about those. You should be dealing more damage with your weapons or your abilities at that point. And then you get the bonus class skill of Athletics. So we did that one in reverse because I always get excited about the level 20 skill, and then you see why you would keep leveling up as a sorcerer all the way to 20. So that is a solid conjuration focused, and then having some defensive abilities and melee abilities. The Arcane Bloodline. Let's take a look at this one. Arcane, blah 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 blah. You get the bonus feats. You can choose combat casting, improved initiative, iron will, reach spell, skill focus, greater spell focus, and spell penetration. So this class is really focused on pure caster, and you'll see that as we move on here. You get the regular proficiencies and cantrips and blah blah blah. Arcane Bond. So you can get a familiar, that's cool, or a bonded object that allows you to cast additional spells. I would go with the familiar personally because they're just really cool, but we'll see about that. I haven't actually tried this one out to see what kind of familiars you can get. And you get the Arcane Bloodline Arcana. You see what that does? Yeah, that's pretty good. Increases DC when you use meta magic. However, keep in mind, up until, 2-3 days ago, meta magic was not functioning for sorcerers, so that's something you need to know when considering this bloodline. Right now, it's bugged, is what I'm saying, but that could change any day. You can choose any knowledge skill to add to your class skills as an arcane. Okay, combat casting adept. You get a bonus to combat casting. Magic Missile is one of your bonus spells. Invisibility, Dispel Magic, Dimension Door, and you get New Arcana. You can add an extra spell. That's great. Again, you're just focused on being able to cast more spells with this bloodline. Break Enchantment, True Seeing, Banishment, School Power. Pick a school of magic, DC goes up by 2. It stacks with spell focus, so that is extremely powerful. If you want to be a pure caster, this would go especially well with like enchantment as a gnome, where you get a racial +1, and then you can get your spell focus for a +1 and then a +2, so you're up to let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 added to the save DC for your spells. And if you empower it, you can add another +1. You're up to a +7 to the DC for your spells. That is just absolutely incredible. Power Word Stun you pick up as a bonus spell. Clashing Rocks. That is a rather interesting spell you pick up. And then finally, Arcane Apotheosis. You automatically succeed in your concentration checks. Okay, I mean, if you're playing the game properly, you don't need this at all, but in an emergency, it'll be there for you. So you're going to stay just as squishy as a standard sorcerer, but you're going to have absolutely insane bonuses to your DCs and more spells than any other sorcerer class. Seems like a pretty good deal. Celestial Bloodline. This one's pretty neat. You can get this one by going as the Imperial Sorcerer. So keep that in mind. But let's see if you want to go with a Charisma-based Sorcerer, what you get from the Celestial Bloodline. And ahead of time, it's pretty good. So there's what you get for your bonus feats. You get the class skill of Lore Religion. And again, for class skills, in case you didn't know, that just adds a +3 to the first point you put into the skill. That's the way it works in Pathfinder. Celestial Bloodline Arcana. You get damage reduction for your summoned creatures. That's quite good. And it's DR/evil equal to half your sorcerer level. So let's say you're level 10 sorcerer, all of your summons are going to get DR5/evil. So it has to be attacked by an evil enchanted weapon or a creature of the evil subtype with some kind of damage reduction /evil or /good. Yeah, that's the way it works. Okay. Heavenly Fire ability. You can see what that does. It's a ray attack, deals damage to enemies or heals allies once a day. Can be used a lot like all these other ray attacks you get for some other bloodlines we're going to look at, and you can read the description there. Celestial Resistances, similar to the Abyssal bloodline, but obviously swappily doodled around. And a lot of things are going to progress as the Abyssal bloodline, so you'll see that as we go on. These are your bonus spells. Here is an ability you pick up, and it's pretty good, except that it's a deflection bonus and a resistance bonus, so it does not stack with your gear. However, considering that you are really good at summoning monsters already, this Aura of Heaven can apply to your summoned monsters. So if you wanted to make your sorcerer really powerful at holding the line via summoned creatures, which is a very viable tactic throughout the game, up to the point where I've played. I'm up to about level 15 with the account that I just deleted because the save files were so corrupted. But this ability can be really good for you, is what I'm saying. And what else do we get? A lot of bonus spells here, and then eventually you get Conviction. Spell Resistance, 11 plus Sorcerer level. Not bad at all. Sunburst, Summon Monster 9 as a bonus spell, and eventually you Ascend. You gain immunity to Acid, Cold, and Petrification. Resist Electricity 10, Fire 10, and plus 4 bonus on saves against poison. Not bad. Again, not bad at all. Would I pick this over Abyssal? Well, the cool thing about Abyssal is you get strength bonus, which is just, I love strength in this game. But the Celestial Bloodline gives you similar abilities for your summons and that awesome aura that can apply to the people around you within 20 feet. So all of your summoned creatures can have a plus 4 to their saves and armor class. That's very, very good. And of course, by this point, a lot of your party members should have, let's say, a plus 3 deflection bonus already. So that would bump up their AC by 1 or 2 points and their saves by a few. So that's also helpful to your party. Draconic Bloodline, these are all going to be similar except that the elemental focuses are going to be different and your breath weapon's going to be different. So let's take a look at the Black Dragon Bloodline. There you can see your bonus feats, and your skill is Perception, which is quite useful, although as a sorcerer you might not necessarily put a lot of points into Wisdom. It doesn't hurt to put points into Perception anyway, because you want to have as many people rolling that Perception check as possible every round. Dragon Arcana. Grow Claws. This is useful at like level 1, and then after that you should pretty much forget about this. Dragon Resistances. Mage Armor bonus spell. More bonus spells you get as you continue to level, and then eventually you get that spell Resistance. And Dragonkind, very cool bonus spell you get there. Dragonkind 2 and 3, Overwhelming Presence, and then Power of Worms. You gain immunity to paralysis, sleep, and acid damage, and this will change for the elemental one. Again, it's going to change with the color of dragon, but paralysis and sleep is going to carry over. You also gain blind sight within a range of 30 feet. That's awesome. Blind sight basically means that you succeed in all of your perception checks. It's kind of awesome. So this is it's amazing. Nobody can sneak up on you. Good stuff. And then you get your bloodline feat selections as you go along. Keep in mind that as a Draconic Bloodline sorcerer, your progression stacks with Dragon Disciple. One thing to note that I haven't talked about, but I will talk about later on in the video, is that it's supposed to work that way with the Eldritch Scion Dragon Bloodline, which is basically a Magus that gets a Sorcerer Bloodline, but it doesn't stack. So that's bugged right now. Again, that could change any day. That's the way it is. So that deals with all of the Dragon Bloodlines. To get into the Elemental Bloodline for Sorcerer, Elemental Air, there you go. And again, all of the Elementals are going to have fairly similar bonuses. And so I'll cover one, and then the rest you can check out for yourselves. Between the elementals, when you transform into each form, they have a different bonus to your stats, so keep that in mind. But when you get elemental body, you can choose any one of the elementals to transform into, so that is not really a concern. So there's the feats you get. Class skill is mobility. That's not terrible, especially if you need to get out of a threatened zone. But again, you move at half speed when you're using mobility, so keep that in mind. Elemental Ray, this is not useless. It can be better than your weapons at level 1, so that's a thing. Burning Hands, and that's kind of cool. You get a Burning Hands spell that's on your elemental focus. That is unique to the elemental bloodlines. Generally, Burning Hands is only available in fire element, so that'd be really cool if you could take, say, the acid or the earth one and get acid element or Burning Hands. It's especially good for things like trolls. Scorching Ray, protection from energy. So you get these neat elemental things, surprising no one. Eventually you get Elemental Blast. You can see what that does. That's pretty neat again, and it scales well into the higher levels. Elemental Movement. At 15th level you become immune to grapple, entangle, slow, and difficult terrain. So that is actually really good. Grapple, entangle, and slow are all things that can really make you vulnerable. And difficult terrain is one of those things you really want to use to your advantage. So this would work very well for you, is what I'm saying. Summon monster 5, 6, 7, 8. And then eventually Elemental Swarm as a level, 9 spell? And then at 20th level, Elemental Body. You are immune to sneak attacks, critical hits, and whatever elemental damage that is associated with your elemental. That is pretty awesome, especially when it comes to sneak attacks and critical hits. Those are things that can wipe out your what should be relatively low amount of hit points fairly quickly, and that is just extremely helpful for you. So you see, there's a serious reason to go up to level 20 as a sorcerer. Fey Bloodline. You can take a look at this one. It's okay. I mean, you can see what the abilities are. I'm not super excited about this one, especially this is sort of a waste because you're better off going with the Fey Sorcerer archetype where you get the animal companion, because you get all of these plus an animal companion. There's no reason to not go for that one. Sylvan Sorcerer is what it was called. So here's some bonus spells that you get. These are pretty good, but once again, and there's an ability you get. Change Staff summons a treant, it appears. So neat. And then Nereid, and Hamadryads. These are actually really powerful creatures, but again, you're at a pretty powerful level by that point. And then eventually you get Soul of the Fae, immunity to poison, very strong. DR10/Cold Iron, not to be underestimated. And once per day you can cast Cloak of Dreams as a spell-like ability using your sorcerer level as caster level. Not bad at all, but again, go for Sylvan Sorcerer and get that free animal companion. There's no reason not to. Infernal Bloodline. This is good for those infernal combustion engines. There are the feats you can get. Class skill is Knowledge World. You get to increase your charm DC by 2. So that can be quite helpful. There's some very powerful enchantment spells, so this could be something very helpful for you. What else do you get? Corrupting Touch. It's a bad tickle. It's not all that good. Infernal Resistance, protection from good. Not all that useful in the main campaign. You won't be fighting good characters a whole lot, but those are things you get. Bonus spells and abilities you can see here. Eventually you pick up Polar Midnight. That's an interesting one. And then finally at level 20, Power of the Pit. Immunity to fire and poison, and DR10 to acid and cold. So very similar to some other Bloodlines we've seen. Not a whole lot of flavor with this one. But if you wanted to roleplay, this one could be, decent for an evil character. All in all, I think there are some stronger Bloodlines out there, including Serpentine. So check this out. If you want to be a melee sorcerer but don't want to go down the Draconic Bloodline, this can be a very viable option and has enough differences that you could really consider this one, especially if you're playing a Scion Magus archetype. So check this out. Serpentine Bloodline. There's your feats, and again you get these bonus feats every 5 levels starting at first. and class skill Stealth. That's quite good, because as a sorcerer you generally won't be wearing a lot of armor, so your stealth should be on point, especially if you're casting invisibility on yourself, or improved invisibility. You can bop around and deal some serious damage. Serpentine Arcana, you can use all of your compulsion spells on animals, so that's pretty good. Monstrous humanoids, magical beasts, and vermin, and animals, as though they understood you. So that's pretty cool. You also get Serpent's Fang, which gives you a poison ability, as the Grow Claws abilities you can use a number of times per day. A 3+ charisma modifier. What else do we have? Here's some bonus spells you get. These are all decent and good for the flavor of being a Serpentine Bloodline. At 9th level you get Snakeskin, which is really, really good. A bonus to your armor, and a racial bonus against save versus poison and mobility checks. And they continue to scale up at 13th and 17th level. So again, you don't need to go Dragon Disciple to make yourself a decent melee fighter. Poison, Hold Monster, Transformation. There's a very powerful spell. However, keep in mind exactly what that entails. Go ahead and read that description for yourself if you're thinking about using that on your level 13 sorcerer to really make them a melee fighter. You get a couple of summon monsters. You get Den of Vermin, which is actually a really interesting spell. It's like Creeping Doom. Go ahead and pause and read that description. It does some serious stat drain damage to enemies, so that's something that will scale well even into later levels. And then what do we get? Eventually Frightful Aspect, which is a powerful ability. And then this weird spell, I don't know what you get here because that's bugged. It says spell, so that I don't know what you get. And eventually you become a Scaled Soul. You can transform into a large Spirit Naga as Beast Shape 3, so you're already large, and then further enlargement spells can enhance your abilities even more. And back again at will. This is at will. That's one of the coolest things about this ability, is you can use it as much as you want. I really am looking forward to building a level 20 Serpentine Bloodline melee sorcerer. You also become immune to poison and paralysis, so even Hold Person is not going to work on you. Really cool. Chains of Light also is a high level paralysis spell. That's not going to work on you. At least it shouldn't. I don't know what's bugged and what's not up at that level. So you may use Serpent's Fang as often as desired, and you may choose to inflict damage to any ability score. That's incredibly awesome. Because everybody's sort of min-maxed in this game, right? You'll face enemies that have like a 25 con, but maybe they only have like a 10 charisma. You can charisma drain them to death, or whatever. You know, you can wisdom drain people, or alternatively, you could attack someone's strong stat, like you could drain a fighter's strength. You could drain a cleric's wisdom in order to really scale back their abilities. See what I did there? Anyway, Serpentine Bloodline, less well known, but really fun and tasty, full of flavor and uniqueness, and you can really see why the Sorcerer is such a diverse class to play, because we're not done yet. Let's look at the Undead Bloodline that you can get. So if you want to be a creeper, if you want to be an edgelord, this is the Bloodline for you. Or the Bloodline. Anyway, Undead Bloodline. There's your bonus feats. Class skill is Lore Religion, because why not? Undead Arcana. Undead creatures are treated as humanoids for determining the spells that affect them. So, I mean, that's decent. You can charm undead and things like that. Whatevs. Grave Touch. So you get to make a melee attack to shaken or frighten someone. It's rather limited. Again, it's one of those abilities that I wouldn't count on. Lasts for one round. It's flavor, but it's not going to really carry you. You get Cause Fear bonus spell. You get Death's Gift at level 3. DR5. Or sorry. Cold Resistance 5. And DR5/magic. And then eventually it goes up to 10 and DR10/magic. DR/magic is not all that good. I mean, it's decent at level 3 because a lot of people will be attacking you with things like masterwork weapons. But by level 9, you're going to be encountering a majority of magical weapons. So, whether that's even valid, meh, I say meh. Some more abilities: you get necromantic spells as your bonus spells, surprising no one. But eventually at 9th level you get Grasp of the Dead, and this is just creepy. You can read what that does. It's a 20-foot burst, deals slashing damage, really high slashing damage actually, a d6 per sorcerer level, so that's 20 d6 at level 20. That stays valid. And it's reflex save for half, and if you fail your save, you're entangled for 1 round. Yeah. So, not bad. Not bad at all. Starts at once per day, twice at 17th level, and 3 times at 20th level. And again, this is one of those abilities that's going to continue to scale along with you. So this will stay valid perpetually. And also, it's slashing damage. So that's non-elemental damage. It's a quite handy ability to have. Obviously, you get Animate Dead, because why wouldn't you? As a bonus spell at the same level. Waves of Fatigue, Undeath to Death, Finger of Death, surprising no one. And at 15th level, you get Incorporeal Form. You become incorporeal for 1 round per sorcerer level. As a regular incorporeal creature, you take no damage from non-magic weapons. You also only take half damage from any source that doesn't deal ghost, holy, or divine, or force damage. You can use this ability once per day. So that's fairly strong. It's going to cut in half most of the damage you take, but watch out for those paladins. Horrid Wilting bonus spell, Energy Drain bonus spell. And one of us at 20th level, you basically become undead. You gain immunity to cold, paralysis, and sleep, and you also gain DR5. So that's a straight damage reduction of 5. It'll stack with your other DRs, and there's nothing that can counteract it. You also receive a +4 morale bonus on saving throws made against spells and spell-like abilities cast by undead. And as a morale bonus, that's not going to stack with other morale bonuses, so keep that in mind. But it will stack with your resistance bonus you get from your Cloak of Resistance. So those are the Sorcerer Bloodlines, but we're not done talking about Sorcerers, because how could I talk about your Sorcerer without also talking about the Magus? Now, in general, the Magus class is kind of stink. The standard Magus is meh, in my humble opinion. The Sword Saint is meh. The Eldritch Archer is pretty awesome, because this is your Arcane Archer from your old D&D. And it progresses very similar along that line, but we're not here to talk about intelligence-based builds. Let's talk about the Eldritch Scion. So this is basically a sorcerer that knows how to use a sword. So you get your regular Magus abilities. You get Eldritch Pool. You can read the description on that one. You get Spell Combat. Again, you can read the description there. Spell Strike. You can channel your touch spells into a melee attack. I wouldn't count on that one. I have my own plans for how to make an Eldritch Scion, and it has to do mostly with buffing yourself and your party and then wading into melee combat. I feel like that's going to be more reliable for you than trying to cast while you fight on the front line. Magus Arcana, bonus feats as fighter bonus feats with certain exceptions. You can almost keep up with a fighter in the feats and the attack bonus department, even though you gain a medium BAB, as you can see from there. However, you get a higher BAB than a sorcerer, so if you want to go into melee, this is a good option. And you also get Arcane Strike available as a feat, which I highly recommend you take. You can read the description on that one when you build your own Eldritch Scion. It ends up giving you a +5, I think, to hit and damage that stacks with your other enhancement bonuses, so quite good. What else do you get? You get bonus feats, and then you get the ability to cast in medium armor, and then you can pick up some more fighter feats eventually at level 10, and at level 13 you can cast without spell failure in heavy armor, and you also gain heavy armor proficiency. So this is extremely powerful for a melee fighter. And then Eldritch Scion gets the Bloodline. So all those Bloodlines we talked about, the Abyssal Bloodline, the Draconic Bloodlines, the Undead, the Serpentine, all those things that make you really powerful can be yours in the form of an Eldritch Scion. So this is a really exciting class to play, and I built a level 14 Eldritch Scion, and I built a level 14 Dragon Disciple via the Sorcerer route, and the Eldritch Scion with the Dragon Bloodline easily outperformed the Sorcerer with the Dragon Bloodline in all melee categories, but of course your Sorcerer is going to pick up a few more spells, because Eldritch Scions, I think their spell level caps out at 6, so that's something to keep in mind. But level 6 spells and top-notch melee abilities are really something special, and this could be the character that has all of the party buffs, your haste and your heroism and all those kinds of things, and self buffs and stone skin and all that stuff. And then you can have for your sorcerer someone who is more more focused on casting spells. So that is a review of the sorcerer class, giving you an idea of what the Bloodlines do. As you build your sorcerer, the feats you pick and the spells that you focus on, those are really going to determine how that class works for you, and there's just not enough time in the world to talk about that. It's been a pleasure to do a talk on the sorcerer class, because it's by far the most diverse in my humble opinion, and I feel like I've given some good reasons to back that up. And beyond that, it's fun. It's great for role playing, because you can be this obscure, strange thing and have an answer for why. And also we talked a little bit about the Magus, especially the Eldritch Scion, which, along with the Eldritch Archer, is probably the strongest of the Magus classes. A straight Magus is not all that good, but if you play an Eldritch Scion right, especially if you just focus them on offensive power for their physical stuff, their feats and their abilities, and then you pick up just enough spells to build your defenses up, but really focus on just dishing out damage in the melee, I feel like that gives the Eldritch Scion a great place to be. And my advice, take it or leave it, is if you're going for Eldritch Scion, do not focus on casting spells while you're in the melee. I would focus on buffing yourself up before the fight, and then just wading into that melee. An Eldritch Archer is very capable of casting spells while performing attacks, because you're not going to be in those threatened spaces, and eventually you're not going to provoke attacks of opportunity, because your concentration is going to be high enough to consistently defensively cast. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But early on, I would give this one a great sword, bump up your strength, and pick either Abyssal or Dragon Bloodline, maybe even Serpentine, and just deal huge amounts of damage as sort of a second wave attacker. You get your guys with a high AC on that front line using their shield wall, and then you slam in with the Eldritch Scion, 3 seconds after that front line engages and just wipe up the flank and sweep around. But that's talking tactics. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. I think you can tell I'm excited about these classes, and I hope you have a great day. Catch you in the next video. Bye-bye. Oh, also, that's a freaking cute custom image, isn't it? She's so determined. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.